believe, but Willie and I have known each other now going on almost 33 years. Going back to freshman year when we were roommates, or not roommates, floor mates on 3rd Mary. We were not roommates that year, but over the course of the first semester and into the second semester, when we both joined the rugby team, we sealed a friendship that is typical of the St. John's Brotherhood and that endures today. Anyway, we were able to get the biggest room in the basement of Rat Hall for our sophomore year. Again, nothing short of a coup for underclassmen at that time. Let's just say it was a very good year. Academically, entrepreneurially, and socially. Although Brother Zach and J.P. Earls, from time to time, were not quite as enthusiastic about our social efforts. I was talking to gentleman Bob from the class of '59 earlier. And, let's just say we shared some similar stories about beer. It seems like just yesterday, that there we were attending St. John's, and now we are attending our own kids' graduation parties and weddings. But let's move on a little bit to Willie's official bio. Willie Willette was born and raised in a large family in Willette, Minnesota, before graduating from St. John's with a degree in English and a concentration in philosophy, which of course guaranteed that he would work with his hands for the rest of his life. After years of construction, travel, and museum work, Willie struck on his own and established Willie Willette Works in 1996. It's a design-build studio for custom, one-of-a-kind furniture. For the past 5 years, Willie has also worked as an adjunct professor at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, otherwise known as MCAD, as well as serving on many local arts boards and the University of Minnesota student-run radio station, Radio K. His best work, however, continues to be his daughter, Erin, who was St. Ben's class of 2010, and who, by the way, will be marrying a Johnny this fall. Mixed kids. Well, could be worse. It's no surprise to those of us who've known Willie for a while, many of you are here today, class of '83, that he's been able to create a successful business out of his love and appreciation for the arts and his innate ability to build things out of wood. I should have seen this coming in the fall when we showed up for sophomore year to move into the basement of Rat. Willie shows up with a queen-size, hand-built waterbed for him. Now, for you younger people out there in the crowd, do you know what a waterbed is? And just out of curiosity, for those of you who are old enough to remember, how many out there had a waterbed back in the day? So I'd say we have a fairly honest crowd. It's about that. In any case, it was a fine piece of craftsmanship, but more importantly, it ensured him the prime sleeping spot in that basement of Rat room, as it was the only place that a queen-sized bed would fit. And now, as Paul Harvey might say for the rest of the story, and these are just some odd facts and tidbits that might add some color and background for those of you who do not know this unique entrepreneur as well as some of us. Willie played rugby all 4 years at St. John's and was captain his senior year. Now, there are a lot of rugby stories out there I could tell, but I was warned this is being taped and will be streamed online, so we'll just leave it at that. Fair enough? He tried his hand at acting while he was on campus and was cast in a significant role in one of the productions put on at the Barrington Arts Center. I don't recall the name of the play. Love Suicide at Schofield Gardens. Well, the point being that maybe he didn't get the career in film or stage that he wanted, but he always had and still has a flair for the dramatic, as those of us who know really well can attest to. He also is a founding member of the Baseball Road Trip, which was started in 1987, along with another founding member in the room, our very own Professor Paul Marson. Now, for those of you that don't know what the BRT is, it's an annual event dedicated to visiting different major and minor league ballparks, as well as throughout the country, as well as tasting the local ales, correct? Correct. And it just finished up its 26th year with games in Boston, Pawtucket, and New York. And I happened to participate this year. It was quite the event. Willie's an interesting, charismatic, opinionated, and boisterous personality. Known for his ability and as just willingness to argue, debate, and discuss with the best of us on just about any subject. And yet it is this very quality and the strength of character that has made him successful as a custom furniture artisan. His desire to create and make beautiful things is enhanced by a strong work ethic, his commitment to quality and craftsmanship. And I would encourage any of you, if you're ever looking for a unique piece of furniture for your home, your business, or whatever, something that is functional and can truly be admired on its own as a thing of beauty, Willie's your guy. Because for Willie to sleep at night, the aesthetic and the quality has to be carried all the way through. I introduce to you my good friend, Willie Willette.
Thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate it. I see a lot of familiar faces, even a few friendly ones, which is nice. When Paul first asked me to do this, he actually used the words scraping the bottom of the barrel. And I appreciated his candor with that. My first thought when he asked me was I'm not qualified. I thought, I don't care about that. That doesn't make any difference. But I did give it some time thinking about how and why I'm here. My business I would call marginally successful. It hasn't been a big money maker. It's allowed me to put my daughter through college, and that's really been the only goal I've had since I left college. We do a lot of interesting work. Still, I wasn't sure that I qualified. So again, when talking to Professor Marsden, he said, "Well, what should we call the talk?" And he said something like "Another Path Chosen" or something. I thought it'd be more appropriate to be "What the?" But I did settle on success is relative, and I think in that case I am qualified to be here today. I'm just going to give a little bit of background on how and why I got to where I'm at right now. Questions can be asked at any point. This isn't a speech. I'd rather give my manifesto, but I didn't think that would be appropriate. So, as Bob mentioned, I was raised in a small town. My dad's here today, Paul Willette. I believe his words were, "No." So, growing up in Bolivia was instrumental in one aspect of the work ethic that Bob mentioned. The work ethic in that town was what most people would call insane. The neighbors who worked hard every day, drank every night, and only occasionally beat their wives were called good citizens. And I'm not joking. It was, if you worked hard, that was all that counted. That was really the religion of the farm community. His hard work was what it was all about. And of course, that was a good lesson. And I did learn to work really, really hard. The worst thing you could be called where I grew up, there were other names that were quite nasty, but the very worst thing you could be called was lazy. Joe Kelly in 3rd grade called me lazy, and we had a fight that lasted over 3 recesses, which was considered a draw because he punched me in the nose and I started to bleed and he started crying. So I figured it was even then. And up until, if any of the rest of you grown up in a small town, it's heaven until about 13 and a half, and then it's living hell because you just can't wait to get out. My parents did a good job of taking us to the Twin Cities for a lot of culture events. You know, almost every month I think we would come to town for a play, pick up 3 or something with Walker. And it almost made it worse because we'd have to turn around and go home. Oh. But a lot of interesting things. I actually first developed a little bit of woodworking skills in high school. I took shop because everybody took shop. And actually found out that I liked it quite a bit. And the few of us who took it somewhat seriously were all surprised at that because, you know, woodworking is for like poor people who sweats and stuff. So we didn't really think of it as anything like a career. But the class was fun. We had a very good teacher, and we had Paulie knows this from way back because we've been working a long time. I had a friend good guy, but
Not
just
me.
not this Bob. That's a marginal Bob. Dumb Bob was a nice guy. He wandered the shop. He ordered plans to build like a hydroplane or something, and then just didn't do anything. He just wandered around the shop. And we actually were learning things, learning how to build things and stuff, and we kind of liked it. So Bob would often include himself into our groups and discuss things with us. And Bob talked about like a small town person. So we were discussing whether there's a technique, if you're building furniture or shelves or anything, got a piece in the side of a shelf support. It's called a dado. And there's a special blade to do that. This is important to the story. So we were talking whether or not this would be necessary. And remember, this is a small town Olivia. What Bob wanted to say was, they don't need to dado that, do they? No. But what Bob actually said was, they don't need to dado that, do they? And every person I told that story to comes up and goes, they don't need to dado that, do they? So coming from Olivia with that work ethic was a good start. That brings us to St. John's. You guys remember Red Hall? I don't. It's all a blur. But what I found interesting about St. John's, I had a very good upbringing. I had a strong Catholic upbringing, but it was not refined. And that's one of the things I picked up at St. John's was there wasn't a lot of gray area of morality by the time I left of what was right and wrong. Things were made pretty clear. And one of the really nice things is about how the community created that without a lot of, it wasn't very heavy-handed. Nobody ever lectured me on what I should or shouldn't do, with the exception of my monthly chit-chats with Roman Power in my senior year. But then he never kicked me out. But it was more about the community, not judging per se, but just there was a way that everybody let you know what you were doing was either okay or not. It was subtle, but it was unmistakable. And that was critical for me to somebody who didn't listen well and didn't like being told what to do. Is I felt I left there with a very good feeling of having no idea what I was going to do, but knowing that it'd be okay. I think it's an accident, but it worked out that way. So graduated from St. John's, got a really great job at the Walker Art Center, got to travel a lot, got to work with these world-class artists. That was really sort of the design element of what I do now. It's very important that we design and build everything we do. We don't take on other people's work. We have architects come to us saying, can you build this for us? It's like, well, no, you know people who do that. We design and build. I say we, I'm the owner and proprietor, but I've got a very loyal staff who's been with me for a long time. I don't yell like I used to. That's a mixed blessing as well. But working at the Walker and working with the artists and curators was a really good way. And again, it acted somewhat like St. John's. It wasn't nothing. It wasn't anything studied. You know, I could say I've never had a furniture class in my life, and technically that's true. But of course, I've learned something from every single person I've worked with. So I don't really believe, especially in the case of building things, nobody is self-educated. You're always picking things up from everybody else. From the Walker was the design element of really how to go about things. And I'm currently teaching a class both spring and fall at Minneapolis College of Art Design, like Bob said. And that's been quite a bit more interesting than I thought. I was expecting to get students like I was, and I would have hit them over the head with a hammer. But it is continuing studies, so I've gotten a lot of adults, a lot of people who really want to be there, and that's been really quite rewarding. But one of the things about my business that I can't tell you, I can't explain, and it's much like what I learned at St. John's is what I learned at the Walker. I can't tell you how I design. I can give you the tools to design. I can give you exercises. I can walk you through ways to go about it. But even with my class, they say, well, how do you design? And I have to say, it's just instinctive. It's just like the morality that came from St. John's and the discipline that came from Olivia. It's just always there. And I don't have to think about it too hard. It just comes out that way. So through all of those things, I started the business in '96, as Bob said, and again, success is relative. I've been able to keep my doors open, which to my accounting, no one has been able to do when they were contemporaries of mine, unless they've been a trust fund or had a working wife who makes a lot of money. And I certainly don't begrudge them anything, but it's a tough industry. We're creating things, and this is where we're finally going to touch on entrepreneurism a little bit, is we are creating things that don't exist. We're trying to sell things that don't exist. We have clients saying, well, can I come and look at your stuff? I said, no, you can't. It's all on people's phones and it's all on businesses. So the biggest difficulty we face, and I would love for somebody to come up with a solution, is how do we sell these people something that doesn't yet exist? And that's been hard. We have wasted money on, a little bit of money on marketing. Advertising's been okay because it was brand building, so that helped, but it never made the phone ring, not once, not a single time. So we're in a good place. We've been word of mouth for 16 years. Business is better than it's been in quite a while, maybe better than ever. We've got backlog of about 3 months right now. So that's been really, really good. I don't know, anybody have any questions? Come on. There we go.
Can you talk about the process from the time somebody walks in your door and says, I want you to build this, to them getting it?
Perfect. When a client comes in, there's a couple different types of clients, as you imagine. There's people who know exactly what they want, there's people who have no idea, and then there's people in between. All of them are fine to work with. People know exactly what they want to do, very easy. The other ones, some give and take. But what's critical about them, when she says walk into the studio, we get people to call, and we talk on the phone a little bit, and I say, you gotta come in. You just gotta come in. And when they do, it becomes real. The website isn't real, the process isn't real, the sign isn't real. When I get them into the studio, and they see people actually building things. This country is so foreign to fabrication right now. We've all been trained to go shop. Nobody's trained to go have it made. The rare person has their suits tailored. But everybody could have all their furniture made exactly to what they wanted. It is not out of reach by expense, especially if they're buying stuff at International Market Square. Our prices are generally better than that. Their pieces are not handmade, and they're not one of a kind. So getting that idea out that people can actually have their own piece of furniture has been difficult. Once we get them into the studio, we talk about their needs. Usually it's a site-specific piece. In that case, we'll go to their home. They say, well, we need a dining table. Are you going to be living there a long time? I say, yes. Okay, well, then we'll go to their home and design there. And we'll give them an estimate. And at that point, there's still no obligation. And which is why I'm concerned about leaving the word-of-mouth world, is cold calls could really hurt us. Could waste a lot of our time. But with word-of-mouth, we make good connections for people, for working with people. So at that point, then we do our little trick, which is we make a small-scale model. So maybe a few of those up here. People go crazy. They freak when they see the little. I've had clients say, if we buy the big table, do we get the little table too? And it's like, yes you do. I mean, and they love it. And I mean, my staff fights over who gets to make it. We all like making. But that is a mere lie. And it's like, well, we'll give you an estimate, we'll make them out. Well, no, I'm not sure, don't go to all that trouble. It's like, oh, no, it's okay. And when we make the model, I bet it's 90% that after the model's in their hand, that they go ahead and buy something. A lot of times, the clients have already seen some of our work in other people's homes, and even still, they still try to get them to the studio, because that's the real key. Seeing that environment of things being made isn't something that people have generally grown up with. They're shopping, they're not making. Please.
Willie, how much has social media helped? You said word of mouth is great, and these days the quickest way to get a fast word out about excitement and enthusiasm is Twitter, Facebook. Right. How has that helped you guys?
We've used Facebook pretty effectively, but that is really just an extension of word of mouth. It really hasn't generated new work. Probably not, I don't want to say insulated, but it really hasn't had that much effect, especially because it's difficult to create the idea that people, they want to come to my studio and buy things. Where they see, oh, I got this, they want to come there and say, I want to buy this. It's like, well, we don't do that. So it's a very fine line of trying to reach clients, but making sure they understand that they're not shopping at my studio, they're coming to have something made. And I still have not quite figured out how to make that work. But I could use help.
Willie, I have two questions. First, your bio said you had a concentration in philosophy.
Indeed.
I have a concentration in philosophy. So I was wondering if you were an early pioneer in online learning, because I don't remember you in class at all.
That's actually interesting, that because I took the hard classes. Remember Father Name McGraw? I didn't see you in any of his classes.
Actually, that's the only A I received at St. John's.
That's quite impressive.
Happy to wait that way. No, my real question is, you've made so much great stuff. What are you most proud of? What's the coolest thing you've made?
Well, I don't want to disappoint people too much, but when your hobby becomes your business, you lose a little bit. There's a little step back. I actually think about a lot of the stuff I built with the Walker and some of the installation artists that work there. Well, that's up there too. But everything that leaves the door, I'm proud of to a certain level of degree. But you know, much like growing a company, any company, is you're always on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. So it's dangerous that I don't get romantically involved with the work I do. Really bad news to get involved with clients, let me tell you. But that's just, you just have to keep, every day. And I think almost that's what I share with almost every industry, is you do good work and you keep doing good work, and you don't really stop to sit and think about it. You just keep making stuff. There are certainly projects we like more than others, particularly, and this is not the same thing, but we love doing work in public spaces because our friends get to see it. But we've done a lot of work recently with restaurants, and we get to do trade. So I get everything free at Tilia for at least 10 years, and you cannot put a price tag on that. That's just fantastic. Yes, sir.
I was intrigued by the slides that showed the materials you use, which brings to mind this two-part question about the materials. When people come in with an idea and they show you or tell you what type of wood that they want, do you run into wood that is endangered, number one, and number two, if they come in with a wood that they want that it just absolutely is financially out of sight?
The financial happens, but not the rare or unseen. It's really easy to follow the rules. You can barely get it. And it's, again, thanks to my grooming at St. John's, we don't even consider it. If somebody comes in and said, I want Brazil Rosa, it's like, well, good luck. Go to garage sales, you might find something. We're not going to get it, and if we did, we're not going to use it. The rules are a little fuzzy on some of the other ones, and so there is a little bit of gray area, but we just generally stay away from it. The nice thing is the fallback is generally all wood is reproducing all the time, so we're really not, as long as we're working with wood, we're generally not doing anything too bad. But I actually don't recall even having to have that conversation in 16 years that we've had people ask for things. They ask for things that we can't make, but that's very rare because we can kind of make anything. But no, it's just through the suppliers of the furniture makers, you know what you can and cannot use, and what's good and what's not good to use. And hopefully, like other industries, the furniture making community is very friendly. There's only 2 gigs, and we all know who they are, and we don't talk to them. But the other 30 or 40 of us seem to get along pretty well. So. Go ahead.
Trying to develop your staff, how do you kind of build your craftsmen underneath to build on this? Obviously, I understand you're kind of on the creative design side, but then you have to have the craftspeople to do that. Is it kind of an apprenticeship to kind of build into it, or how do you develop these?
Good question. We have a great relationship with Minneapolis College of Art and Design that has a furniture program. So these people are absolutely pre-screened before they get to me. One of the guy who runs the program, Dean Wilson, is a good friend of mine. And if we need anybody, we call him and ask him who just graduated, who's going to graduate soon. We do an internship between their junior and senior year, which is a great way to test people out. We give them not that much instructions, and we just watch how they do, and that's been really critical. We had one intern said he didn't work hard enough. Why didn't you tell me? Doesn't make it. if I had to tell you to work hard, that's not a good fit here. So the MCAD program and a few others, there are a few other programs elsewhere too that we've tapped into. But that's been, I mean, they don't start at the basics. They've already got a lot of the furniture building skills down. And almost everything we do is not that hard. It's just the process. Like anyone else's job, I know that if you've never done anything like this, you look at that and say, oh my God, how did they do that? It's all process and steps. It's what we used to call the dance when Paul and I were working in construction. If you know the dance, you ever try to carry a couch with someone who doesn't know how to move things? And they're going like this, they don't know the dance. They don't know how to move a couch. The dance applies to almost anything you do. If you know the process, if you have an understanding of how it's built, it's very easy. Nothing we do is really, really hard. Sometimes it just takes a lot longer. Sometimes it takes additional tools and additional materials, but none of it's really, really hard. We just keep building.
Can you outline some of your artwork open space around the city?
Sure. In the old, Bob, what's the first bank's building called now? The Capella Tower has the Dale Chihuly bases that are lit through the skyway. We built all the casework for that. The restaurant Tilia, we did most of the build out there. There's a advertising agency called Knock on Glenwood that we worked with architect Julie Snow on, that we did all the build up there. That turned out wonderful. That is one of our best projects. The old modern cafe, we redid the tables in the bar for quite a while, maybe 10 years ago. And we have some new work coming up with some new restaurants, at least we hope we do. It's in the mix right now.
I actually checked you out on Facebook.
Thank you.
And I noticed that you're getting into parade float building.
Yes, yes. Kevin from Cupcake just won the National Cupcake Wars on the Food Network. He's in the same building I'm in. And he came to me Thursday at 3 o'clock and said, I need a float for the Pride Parade. And I said, well, when is that? He said, Sunday. And I said, huh. And he said, I've been thinking about it for 5 weeks. Okay. I'd like to say that's not typical, but the exciting part of my job is I have no idea what's going to happen every single day I go. So we call some resources, we bring some friends in, so-called competitors, we ask them to help us out, so this one day we build the entire Pride float that unfortunately I didn't get to see. I missed the parade, but I guess it turned out, well, I saw it finished, I just didn't see the parade. It turned out very well. So, and that question directs the thing is, why doesn't my business name say furniture or fine furniture or woodworking? We never wanted to be limited by that. We never wanted to have people say, well, he doesn't do parade floats, don't call him. We built all the crappy displays for the Cupcake Wars that the weenie says, oh, I'll be back in 2 hours, I'm going to go build this. Well, we built it. It took a lot more than 2 hours. And they turned out well, of course, because he actually won the Cupcake Wars. But we would be excluded from doing that if we were focused too narrow.
You mentioned some of the skills that you've gained at St. John's and potentially different positions you've held. I'm curious, was it always in your goals or plans to start furniture or a business, or was there a particular moment when you said this is good?
About 5 years into the business is when I decided I was going to keep doing this as a business. I had absolutely no idea. Understandably graduating with the English and philosophy degree, the English factory closed that. You remember Sandy, it was a tough year for English. She had a degree as well. So. I was always much clearer on what I didn't want to do and what I didn't want to do. So I was always building things. And that's where construction was a good background. That's where the Walker was a good background. I was always building things there. I did a short time at the Minnesota Children's Museum. And I knew I wasn't going to keep doing this because that was actually a terrible job and I hated it. So I decided to go out on my own. I did not have a business plan, which is a mistake. I didn't know what I was going to do except I could keep building things. And 4 years, I think 4 years into the business, my brother and I had an opportunity. A friend became the head consulate in Uzbekistan. So we flew to Uzbekistan and had a month there, which is just absolutely remarkable. But you know, when you get away, you finally have a chance to think. And I thought, well, I like what I'm doing. I've we've got some good people. I'll see how this goes for 5 more years. And then you wake up and it's a career. So be careful. Don't go to sleep if you have a crappy job.
I remember a time when you were working with my company, Willie, when we were putting masonite siding on a single-family home that would probably sell for $79,000. And I think I remember the point at which you said you didn't want to do this for a living.
Yes.
But my question for you is, and I don't know if this is a good one to end on, Terry, but most entrepreneurs that have been around for a while, you've been around for 16 years, have some low points that they've made it through. What's been some of the...
Well, clearly the lowest point was starting about 2.5 years ago when the recession hit with earnest. I don't sell things people need. I sell things people want. And they didn't want that for a long time. So bottoming out maybe about 1.5 years ago when I had a client call and asked us to do something that we don't usually do. She said, "Can you refinish this piece? I know you didn't build it." But I said, "Lady, I'll mow your lawn right now." Okay? And she thought I was kidding. So that was really, really hard, and it's also something I will never go through again. If we have a double dip recession or something, I'm going to go down to a small shop and one other person, and we'll just make up stuff because I didn't sleep for about 6 months. I wandered around I've been lucky enough to invest in some artwork before my daughter went to college and took all the money. But I was wondering what one I was going to sell first, and had a motorcycle up for sale, which thank God didn't sell, and I still have it. It's not really for sale anymore. But yeah, having no control, as everyone who is in business understands, having absolutely no control over the environment you put into is very, very hard and very frustrating. And we survived on old clients and scrambling and hustling and nearly tackling strangers who mentioned they were thinking of possibly having something done. Hitting up friends saying, "Remember that thing you couldn't afford? You can afford it now. Name your price. I can either lose money slowly or I can lose money really, really fast." So, but yeah, that was hard. I won't go through that again. That was tough. I'm tough on everybody, I'm sure. Yes, the last 6 months have been better, and the last 3 months have been great. Unfortunately, we're not big enough to be an indicator. Soon, I'm sure, but right now we're not a national indicator. So we can't attribute, what happens to us as being a solid. 2.5 months ago we were in a trough. Right now we're as high as we've gotten. We've got some great work coming in. Lately it's been the architects. I guess the home building has been ahead of us a little bit. So we've gotten a lot of good work from Charles Stinson and Julie Snow, which has been really, really helpful. But I don't know. 2 months from now we could be in a trough again, and I'll be calling all of you individually. You're on a list. It's really easy. So, great. Thank you very much, Paul. I appreciate the opportunity.
Again, thanks for coming. Let me just give you headlines for what's coming this coming year. September 6th, remember, is the Entrepreneur of the Year Awards recognition. Margaret Murphy will be our speaker in November. What's the PR advertising world like today? March, I don't know yet. May, our speaker is Mike Wethington. Next July, our speaker is going to be Michael Beatty. So, plan on coming. If you need the dates, we will send an email to you reminding you what they are. Again, thanks for coming, and we'll see you in September.